Nergal, the Anunnaki, raging king. Nergal was the patron god of Cuthah, eastward of Babylon. He was a god of extremely ancient origin. And indeed, the first inscription which alludes to him is dated around 2700 BC. Nergal is mentioned in the Old Testament, 2 Kings 17:30, as an idol whom the Babylonians who repeopled Israel brought with them. He seems to have had a close connection with the nether world. Indeed, he is practically the head of the pantheon. He appears to have been a god of gloom and death, and his name may signify the lord of the great dwelling place, that is, the grave. His city Cuthah may probably have been renowned as a burial place. We find him associated with pestilence and famine, but he also has a solar significance. He is indeed the sun in its malevolent form, fierce and destroying. For in myth, the sun can be evil as well as good. We thus find the solar power depicted as a fierce warrior, slaying thousands and tens of thousands. Again, it is quite possible for a solar deity to have an underworld connection, seeing that the sun is supposed to travel through that gloomy region during the night. We thus see how Nergal could combine so many seemingly conflicting attributes. As a god of the dead, he has a host of demons at his command, and it may be these who complete his order in spreading pestilence and war. Where he goes, violent death follows in his wake. At times he is called the god of fire, the raging king, he who burns, and the violent one, and he is identified with the fierceness of flame. In this respect, he is not unlike the Scandinavian Loki, who typifies the malevolence of fire. Dibarra was probably a variant of Nergal, in his guise as a solar warrior. The meaning of guise: it is an external form, appearance, or manner of presentation, typically concealing the true nature of something. Concerning Dibarra, a strange myth is recounted and is as follows. The sons of Babylon were as birds, and thou their falconer. In a net thou didst catch them, enclose them, and destroy them. O warrior, Dibarra, leaving the city thou didst pass to the outside, taking the form of a lion thou didst enter the palace. The people saw thee and drew their weapons. So spoke Ishum, the faithful attendant of Dibarra, by way of beginning an account of the havoc wrought in the valley of the Euphrates by the war and plague god. Spare no one, in the gist of his commands to his satellites. Have neither fear nor pity. Kill the young as well as the old, and rob Babylon of all its treasures. Accordingly, against the first city, a large army was dispatched to carry out these instructions, and a battle with bow and sword begun. A strife which ended so disastrously for the soldiers and inhabitants that their blood flowed like a torrent of water through the city's highways. This defeat the great Lord Merodach was compelled to witness, powerless to help or avert it. Enraged at his helplessness and overcome with fury, he cursed his enemies until he is said to have lost consciousness because of his grief. From this scene of devastation, Dibarra turned his attention to Erech, appointing others of his host to measure out the city and the fate of Babylon. Ishtar, goddess of Erech, saw her devoted city exposed to plunder, pillage, and bloodshed, and had to endure the agony of inactivity experienced by Merodach. Nothing she could do or say would stop the violence of Dibarra's vengeance. O warrior, Dibarra, thou dost dispatch the just, thou dost dispatch the unjust who sins against thee. Thou dost dispatch, and the one that does not sin against thee, thou dost dispatch. These words are used by Ishum, Dibarra's servant, in an address to the god of war. He knew his lord's craving for battle and bloodshed was unappeased, and he himself was planning a war more terrible than any he had yet conducted, a conflict not only worldwide, but one which was to embrace heaven itself. So in order to gain Dibarra's consent to the hideous destruction that he anticipated, he continued to pander to his warlike tendencies. Said he, the brightness of Shul Pandu I will destroy. The root of the tree I will tear out so that it will no longer blossom. Against the dwelling of the king of the gods I will proceed. To all of which the warrior god listened with growing pleasure, until fired by his words, he cried out in a sudden fierce resolve. Sea coast against sea coast, Sobatu against Sobatu, Assyrian against Assyrian, Elamite against Elamite, Kassite against Kassite, Sutaian against Sutaian, Cuthian against Cuthian, Lullabite against Lullabite, country against country, house against house, man against man. Brother is to show no mercy towards brother, they shall kill one another. Go, Ishum, he added later, carry out the word thou hast spoken, in accordance with thy desire. And with obedience, Ishum obeyed, directing his countenance to the mountain of Kiki, this with the help of the god Sibai, a warrior unequaled, the name meaning a great king. He attacked and destroyed the vineyards in the forest of Kashur, and finally the city of Inmar Ma'on. These last atrocious acts aroused Ea, Enki, the god of humanity, and filled him with wrath. Though what attitude he adopted towards Dibarra is not known. So Enki's problem here is with the writer. Keep that in mind. Listen all of you to my words. Because of sin did I formerly plan evil. My heart was enraged, and I swept peoples away. This was Dibarra's defense, when eventually he was appeased, and all the gods gathered in council with him. Ishum, at this point, changing his tactics, urged on Dibarra. The necessity for pacifying the gods he had incensed. Could this be the origin and reason behind sacrifice? I do ponder. Appease, said he, the gods of the land, who are angry. May fruit and corn flourish. May mountains and sea bring their produce. As he had listened to Ishum before, Dibarra listened again. And the council of the gods was closed by his promising prosperity and protection to those who would fittingly honor him. In relation to the god of literature, Here at Ancient Mystery, which would be my own interpretation of a god actually contained within the written word. Language, numbers and symbolism, which I stated long ago that this constant reinvention may actually be a preservation method, and Dibarra is now asking to be preserved in the written word, and is as follows. He who glorifies my name will rule the world. Who proclaims the glory of my power will be without equal. The singer who sings my deeds will not die through pestilence. To kings and nobles, his words will be pleasing. The writer who preserves them will escape from the grasp of the enemy. In the temple where the people proclaim my name, I will open his ear. In the house where this table is set up, through war may rage, and the god xvii work havoc. Sword and pestilence will not touch him. He will dwell in safety. Let this song resound forever and endure for eternity. Let all lands hear it and proclaim my power. Let the inhabitants of all places learn to glorify my name. So the writer who preserves them will escape from the grasp of the enemy. Yeah, well, that's all well and good, unless of course one understands that this god is a god of trickery. I never expected to find this in black and white, but yet again, I appear to be correct. Please hit that notification bell to ensure that you're notified of each upload. Share, like, comment and subscribe to support the channel for more Ancient Mystery.